It's time for to go to church. Today is time for the rotation. Let's jump on in.
Why is that happening?
Well, I got to tell you, we are off to such a good start. Kano sounds like Darth Vader. I'm sitting there with my cough and I haven't even dabbed.
I'm just really high.
And well, that's not unusual.
Yeah, but you know, it messes everything up sometimes.
Well, let's get a sense of geography. Here we are. They're cleaning up from the Pride Parade yesterday over in Ybor, and we are at 1714 West 7th Avenue in Ybor City, where it all began at the Chillum CBD Dispensary and Glass Gallery. And we are here to talk about cannabis and the law and the culture and everything that comes with us, the masters of cannabis. I am Gary Stein, the political director and master of public health. Below me here, we have from beautiful Anne Arundel County over in Maryland, our executive director, Christopher, not Carlos, Christopher Kano. I got it right this time.
Thank you, Gary.
Above the Beltway and hitting him below the Beltway as we talk about DC, and we will in just a moment. And of course, my co-host, who has done more RSO this morning than most people do in their lifetime.
That's how I live.
Carlos Angel Jose Amida.
Yes, it's me. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody.
Now, we have a special guest coming today, and they haven't got here yet. But that, I guess, is fashionably late because this person's in Congress.
Yeah, that's what politicians do, right? Like, didn't we say that? The politicians always are late?
Absolutely.
Or they ghost us?
Now,
just politicians are like wizards. They're never late. They arrive precisely when they mean to.
But some wizards actually live backwards in time, like Merlin. So she may have already gotten here, and we don't even know it.
You're just an old nerd, aren't you, there, Gary?
I am a total nerd. It's just nerd alert out there, and all. That's all there is to it.
Me too.
Well, anyways, I wanted to get a little bit into what's going on over there in Eastern Europe because I have my relatives still over in Kyiv and things of that sort. You guys, obviously your family's escaped from from that kind of issue with Fidel Castro, and well, the Bolsheviks kind of kicked out my relatives, so we were all kind of like floating around. We were all basically second generation refugees, and this country is stronger because of the refugees that have come here.
Mm-hmm. I just want to point out, Gary, my family were just regular immigrants; they weren't refugees. They were just poor people coming here to try and make a difference.
Well, considering the fact that they're not driving 57 Chevys right now, I think they're better off now than they could have been if they just hung around.
When I went to Cuba, I rode around in a 53 Opel, and it had no headlights, it had no tail lights. He didn't have his papers up to date. All we had was a fire extinguisher in the car, and that was very concerning.
That's what. Okay, so here's the thing.
That's for those self-lathed motor blocks.
Those cars in Cuba are like really popular because they have like these metalworking shops that they put like they're freaking engineers there. Like they seriously make their own car parts out of metal there and refurbish their cars, right? So I'm wondering, there's got to be a grow room somewhere in Cuba. Like, what are the technological advances that they have in their grow rooms? It's got to be so cool.
Well, they also have hypersonic attacks, apparently.
I wonder if like they grow weed out of cars in Cuba.
Oh no, you can't use cars for planters. They have to be on the road, even if they can't drive.
Well, you don't know Cubans then, because Cubans can do anything.
Cubans, you mean those are the sandwiches with the salami?
I hate you.
only in Tampa can you get a Cuban with a salami on it. Only in Tampa.
And only in Tampa did Tampa invent the Cuban sandwich.
Now I hear that we are going to have some Ukrainian refugees coming to this country, and I tell folks, if you have a way you can get them supplies right now, a lot of them are hanging out in Poland right now. But they need your help, and they might need a place to stay once they get here. So keep that in mind, because this war is not over yet. Hopefully it will be soon, but it's pretty tragic.
Well, I
Mhm.
gotta ask, did y'all see that interview of that guy in Ukraine? They're interviewing him, and he was like, they asked him, "How you doing, sir?" It's a very racky time. He's like, "I'm doing just fine. 420 legalized it. You like cannabis?"
You know,
So,
I don't. A lot of folks don't realize this, but a lot of before the Farm Act, before we only had imported CBD from hemp as what was legal. A lot of that was coming from Ukraine and from Russia, and also from China as well. Because
In
supposedly
Canada.
the primo isolate was coming from Ukraine.
so Ukrainians like to get down, like they like to smoke. Is that what you're trying to say?
They
That's
Is
grew,
that the point here?
well, for many centuries, Russia was the center of industrial hemp production.
that's
Most,
correct.
Oh, really?
most people don't realize, but the War of 1812, the way the
Hmm.
U.S. got roped into it, it was a bigger conflict of the Napoleonic Wars, and there was a Pacific embargo against Russian hemp by the English. Because they wanted to cut off Napoleon's supply, of being able to field a massive navy and invade other countries. And the U.S. sailors were essentially, stopped by the British, and they were basically saying, "Hey, you can either help, smuggle this Russian hemp for us, or you can get pressed into the British Navy." These are things they don't teach you in an eighth grade history book. But
No.
the War of 1812 was essentially a war over weed, Russian weed.
That's right, because they were using it for the ropes for all the navies and for all the sails when they made Ravenscloth, and of course even the paper and the books for the Bibles and the ships. Everything was made out of hemp, and a lot of it came out of Russia. In fact, Napoleon attacked Russia because of the fact he was angry at the fact that they were actually sneaking it to the English. So we've dealt with this kind of thing for years, and cannabis was the issue. I almost wish cannabis was the issue this time because right now, well, to be honest with you, this war makes no fucking sense to me. None whatsoever, other than the fact that Putin wants to just knock things out and change things back to where the way we were back before 1990. And by the way, all those guys on the web who keep on saying, "Hey, go back to communist Russia." There is no communist Russia right now. It's a democratically, well, somewhat operating country, and we haven't had communism since 1990. So stop saying that.
Well, I mean, it's surprising that you guys haven't talked about that Britney basketball player yet. So I think that's the huge story going on with Russia right now.
Well, this is Ybor Pride. So why don't you lead into that?
Well, what was what's her last name? I'm coming up.
Brittany Griner.
Brittany Griner, right? Brittany Griner. Apparently, she plays in the WNBA, but apparently the WNBA is like a hobby to this woman. Apparently, like the way she makes most of her money is playing overseas in Europe.
A lot of
Um,
WNBA players like that. The
yeah,
franchises are so poorly subsidized that the attendance is low in many ways. So you're not going to become a millionaire, eating. So in the off season, you have these rich oil sheiks in the Middle East. You have these rich Russian oligarchs that own teams, and they want these U.S. basketball players to play for them in the off season.
yeah, and apparently, Brittany Griner understands that CBD can help her, recover from her physical training and all the issues that come with putting her body on the line to entertain so many people. And
Oh,
she
just
had a CBD.
yeah, just the anxiety alone of producing in
Yeah,
front of a crowd of a whole bunch of people.
look at how much RSO I have to eat to get on the show. But no,
Are you telling me that you have to have RSO to be able to handle Chris and myself?
you know what? It's just general life at this point. Like, and you guys are just part of my life.
And you can't handle your life without
But
RSO.
especially on Sunday mornings, for some reason, I just got to come in really, really stoned.
Okay, well, we did just get a message from Cameron, who is the scheduler for our guest today. It says, "Hey Gary, so sorry. Just checked in with the team. Apparently, we had an incident with the Capitol Police this morning, responding to a threat.
Oh,
Any chance we can push this back a bit? I've asked how far because I always ask how far, and for a lot of reasons. And they said, like, Gary, how far are you going to take this? Anyways, and he says, stand by, checking. So we're going to continue riffing for a while here
Well-
till we find out what is going on at the Capitol, why the Capitol Police responded to it, and what it had to do with anything that may have possibly endangered our government. But hopefully, everything is going to be straight.
I hope there isn't another Capitol riot.
Well, we do have on deck here Congresswoman Nancy Mace, who is a lady who was born in Fort Bragg. She was the very first female graduate. She did what Shannon Falk couldn't do, and that is make it all the way through the Citadel and graduated magna cum laude back in 1999. And then she was in the South Carolina government and in House of Representatives, and now she's in the U.S. House of Government of Representatives, and has a bill for the legalization of cannabis, which we are going to be discussing. And she just came back from Poland, by the way. She was part of that group that was the preemptive force that came in before Biden came in to go ahead and go with his thing to find out what was going on and what they could possibly do for all the refugees that are in Poland right now. Poland's an interesting place because they were communists, for those people who don't remember history. And then they, after 1990, they went to a democratic society, and they left the Warsaw Pact, which they were a major part of, which was the anti-NATO, for those people who don't remember that. And now they are there taking in the most amount of refugees of any other country in Europe right now. And I'm usually not a major pro-Poland person. They did kind of let Hitler in, and they did kind of put concentration camps mostly in Poland. And they were okay with that for some odd reason. But mead comes from Poland. I always love mead. That's honey wine. But beyond that, oh yeah, and I have a couple of words in Polish that I know from being in Detroit, where Hamtramck is one of the largest Polish enclaves in the country. Smaczne means delicious, for those people who don't know. And that's about as far as my Polish goes. But apparently we went to Poland, and she was going to give us a little bit of lowdown on that. And hopefully we will get a response back here on what is going on with that. But go ahead on with Miss Griner. She is in prison right now. And what is the reasons?
She had a CBD vape pen. She had
Cannabis
a CBD vape
is
pen.
highly illegal in Russia, because if you think about it,
Yeah.
anything that you smoke that gets you to question the authority and the politics of your country definitely is, getting cracked down on.
And even if there's less than 0.3% THC in the vape pen,
I mean, you could be smoking
they'll
catnip and
arrest
you'd
you
still
for
have a
it.
reason to question the authority in Russia right now. But it is interesting, like I mentioned before, that most of the isolate for the last decade was coming out of Ukraine and Russia. And a lot of it came out of Russia. I mean, they put a lot of money into what is now Curaleaf, which now supposedly has divested themselves completely of Russia, so they say, in all of the all the publicity out there. But for her to be going through checkpoints and the airport, where she has played with the WNBA in Russia for 4 years now, for what, $250,000 a year she gets, or is it $1 million a year?
I don't know.
But so she's been to Russia quite a few times before. She's been for the last 4 years. But this particular time, this particular point in history, they decide that because she has a CBD vape pen on her, they're going to throw her in jail. And it doesn't help the fact that she happens to be LGBTQ. And I'll let you guess which one of those letters she is. But but the fact is, there's no reason for her to be in jail right now. There's no reason for her to be having to wait for as long as she has for trial. I mean, we all know what happened to Navalny. All he does is sit in prison and get more sentencing without actually having any due process. I have a terrible feeling this is going to be happening with Ms. Griner too, unless we do something about it. And I'm hoping our government will do something about that and get her out of there. And for all those good folks who have commented to us on our Facebook page about how she should stay there because she was hanging with the commies, well, there you go.
because
that pretty much explains the
Nah,
veracity of those comments.
Yeah, there's like,
I don't
because
put
she
much hold in
kneeled down during the national anthem, she should stay in Russia. Bet she wishes she was free now. Bet she wishes she stood. This is so stupid.
Yeah, and was it Kelly who said on the web post? She said, the anthem is just a song, right?
I'm gonna take off these comments because this guy is just.
Oh, is he on? Is he on there again?
Yeah, he's talking shit about lesbians and stuff like that. Like, that's
Well, maybe you want to leave him up so that people can go ahead and contact him and set him straight.
He's got some
I
code
mean,
name or something.
that's the
like
thing about
that.
Facebook is that it's a two-way conversation. I spent the last
No,
2
no,
years.
these comments are coming in from YouTube. These aren't coming in.
Yeah,
from
that was a
Facebook.
YouTube comment.
A
Yeah,
YouTube comment.
Yeah.
YouTube still allows you to have like anonymous usernames. Facebook, you
Ah.
gotta make a fake name. So
YouTube, the bastion of information in this country. If you want to see an expert, find one on YouTube, right?
oh man, you can find such amazing stuff on YouTube. On YouTube, they'll tell you that the world is secretly run by a cabal of interdimensional lizard people wearing human skin, and that it's really flat. And and then every single piece of our scientific edifice is all to keep us brainwashed. And while maybe there might be slivers of truth in all of that stuff, the fact is there's some pretty crazy, outlandish things. So now I understand when I was growing up through middle school and high school, why they would always tell us, don't trust everything you see on the internet as a reliable source. Do your research properly, document it properly. Now I always had beef with those professors and teachers who are like, don't go to Wikipedia, that's not reliable. But the truth is, Wikipedia actually has some solid sources. It's not like when you go to YouTube.
Yeah, they really check. Actually, Wikipedia, I think, is one of the last true baskins of professionalism on the internet, because it's people just checking each other's work. And
it's the most peer-reviewed thing you got out there, right?
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Here's how I use Wikipedia. I look at the article, I read it, and then I go to the references at the bottom, and I check the references, and I actually read the references as opposed to the article itself.
You got to.
Yeah.
Because that in itself is kind of like it's its own Dewey Decimal card catalog right there at the bottom of every page. For those people who remember the Dewey Decimal System, and for those people who actually used to use libraries, I'm kind of old G.
Yes. Shout out to Sister Dora from Villa Madonna. She taught me how to use the Dewey Decimal System back when I was
Now, I do wonder that if we had YouTube back in the 50s and 60s, would they be the ones broadcasting the fact that 9 out of 10 doctors love Chesterfield for those doctors who smoke? It's so important.
Gary, I went to the Smithsonian with my mom and my wife a couple years back, and we saw in the Museum of American History an entire section of cigarette advertisements that say 9 out of 10 doctors recommend Camels, and there was one with Ronald Reagan on the picture, advertising, smoke Virginia Slims.
Yeah. Fight socialism. Smoke Virginia Slims. There you go.
Our country and our culture is definitely...
That's a fake thing. That's a real thing.
We're something else. We're something else. We were just talking about Wikipedia and references. One of the things that I found interesting was the Schaefer Drug Library. If you've ever been online there, they have a lot of amazing reference material for you to go back and check. And it just so happens that we're coming up on 50 years in this past, a week, that the National Commission on Marijuana and Drug Abuse, also known as the Schaefer Commission, was called to order. It is the first to date only blue ribbon committee ever appointed to make recommendations on federal cannabis policy. This was 50 years ago, and it advised Congress to amend the federal law so that personal use and possession of the plant would no longer be treated as a criminal offense. And it added that the state legislatures should also do likewise. And here we are 50 years later. Those findings have been buried. They were buried by the Nixon administration. They were buried by the Reagan administration. And we have seen both Republican and Democratic presidential administrations, very hypocritical when it comes to, cannabis policy. You see George Bush, Bill Clinton, Obama, all cannabis users. And we really didn't see any federal movement. What I can say is that, under Obama, we did see, this hands-off approach, let the states do it. And for so far, what we have here is a hodgepodge of over 2/3 of the country has legal cannabis, but there still are holdouts, and even in areas where they have medical use, it is still very limited. Like in Georgia, Mississippi, we're starting to get towards that area of where it's being accepted as a medicine. I mean, in South Dakota, they fought to legalize it, and their government, their governor, the Supreme Court worked to overturn it. But in a positive step, you take 2 steps back, 1 step forward. This week, South Dakota's governor did sign legislation that allows for a limited home grow rights for patients. So patients in South Dakota can now grow 4 plants, 2 veg and 2 flowering. And I mean, at least that's something.
I never thought I'd see the day where South Dakota was more advanced than Florida.
Now, speaking
Straight up.
of state issues and Florida issues, a particular merger happened this last week. Actually, we got a notice of it, and that is that Cresco Labs, who just recently bought Bluma Industries, which used to be one plant, which used to be Three Boys, which had just decided that they were going to go ahead and buy Columbia Care. Columbia Care being one of the biggest multi-state operators in the country, and by merging those together, they make themselves number 2 in the country. And what they said that they're going to have to do in Florida, because they have a large footprint in Florida, is that because the fact that Cresco happens to own one plant already, which is now Sunnyside, asterisk, God knows why.
Jeez, how do these names change way too much?
Well, that
Because
means that
these companies keep getting bought out, and these licenses keep getting flipped. I'm glad Gary has been here on the ground from the get go, so he understands how he got from the
Yeah.
original 5 to the 22 to these hands changing. But
How do you
without
keep
that
track
info-
of all this
and
stuff, Gary?
we're supposed to be expanding, but in fact, the market is contracting because when Trulieve absorbed Harvest, in part to get back at Mark Maisel over there in Gainesville,
It's monopolizing.
they absorbed Harvest and they spit that license out, and Planet 13 bought it. Now Planet 13 is not going to be built out for at least another year and a half. What that means is instead of having 22 licenses that could possibly be operating at scale, one more of them went from a operating at scale operation back down, busted down to starting from scratch again. One less company competing for the business here in Florida. This is what's going to happen again. Now, it's not supposed to happen until the fourth quarter of 2022. But the fact is, Cresco wants to absorb Columbia Care, now known as Cannabis. And of course, they're going to take all of the assets that Cannabis belongs to, their grows, their stores, and everything, and all make that into Cresco Lab stuff, which is now Sunnyside asterisk, and spit out that license and probably sell it off to the highest bidder, which means once again a full competitor competing at scale is going to be knocked down to nothing again. And again, the market contracts, and this is a $2 billion all stock deal. So no money has even changed hands.
So we
Just
have to ask:
stock.
Is this so Gary? Is this the market self-correcting? Is this free enterprise, or is this the big players having enough money to buy out other players? That's where we got to look at.
That-
Is this an oligarchy developing? Is this the gilded age of cannabis in front of our eyes, or
No.
is this capitalism doing what it's supposed to do?
What it looks like to me, it's an oligarchy forming a monopoly. That's what it looks like to me. This isn't free enterprise. This is straight up like imperialism. You know what I mean? Dun 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 dun.
Okay, I got another message here from Congresswoman Makes' scheduler saying, apologize for this, not getting much from our team with her now. I think they're coordinating right now with the local PD and just waiting on a response to give us a time. I'm unfortunately not with them in the district at this moment because he's right now, I believe, in Charleston. So we're going to keep that on hold. But in the meantime, I think we do have a very important topic we're talking about right now, and that is multi-state organizations. Now, each state right now has their own crazy quilt of laws. So basically, in California, it actually goes down to the county where you have a whole plethora of different counties having different laws. But here we have different states having different laws, and of course you can't cross state lines with product. Although they are working on that right now in Oregon, because right now they have been so overproducing product that they have like 3 pounds per Organian, if you can call that them. And so they've got to get that stuff out of the state in order to have it not just fall away.
I mean, I've heard that even on their black market in Oregon, pounds are going for as low as $500. Like they just have a glut of supply in that state.
Exactly. Now, what would happen if we had interstate commerce? Well, Congresswoman Mace's bill, one of the things it does, of course, is we're talking about federal legalization. We're talking about taking cannabis off of the controlled substance list that was created in 1970. Happy birthday, Controlled Substance Act. Actually, the Schaefer edition, which came out the year after that. And so if we have multi-state organizations right now because everybody has to have their own organization set up in each individual state. And so each of these guys have footprints in like I believe Columbia Care has footprints in 18 different states, and Cresco, I believe, has footprints in 10 states. And they are going to merge them all together in the states that they can. But in Florida, we have this cute little law which says that if you are a license owner, you can't own any more than 5% of another license. So therefore, you can't own two full licenses. But what you can do is what they are doing, and that is that absorbing that license and spitting out the license. So you knock out a competitor for at least the next year and a half, where we're still trying to figure it out. Now, last week was the application window for the Pigford license. Now, in my investigation in Tallahassee, as of Wednesday, there was not a single application put in, and that's interesting considering all of the haranguing has been going on in regards to the Pigford license, and the fact that it has twice the application fee that the other people had to deal with, and the fact that the people who are eligible, because of the fact they're members of the Pigford class, which was a lawsuit in the 1990s, are actually approaching to the age of way past retirement. And so basically, you have a lot of folks in their 70s and 80s that are eligible with their family businesses, and they don't have actually the money to build up a vertically integrated company. So they have to actually borrow as much as $40 million from other entities, very possibly non-minority entities. And a lot of them are not just getting stock or money, but they're also getting debt. They're basically buying promissory notes from these guys so they can have enough money to be able to get their application in, and if they win, then be able to build out totally, to buy the real estate, to buy all the cultivation equipment, to buy the dispensaries and things of that sort. And that means that if they miss one payment or two payments, the company could revert to the people who were financing them in the first place.
Yo, like I normally don't identify with this type of thing, but like, yo, like it's like I had the idea the other day that I'm finally gonna get licensed to sell marijuana in Florida when I fucking die, and that's what's gonna happen with these people.
Okay, then we're going to have to put out a bill that regulates post-mortem licenses.
Jesus Christ, man!
No, I mean, you got to
Can we
think.
call them zombie licenses? I don't know.
We've been talking about social equity, about fighting. Look, the whole point is that there are disparate numbers of African American and Latinos that go to jail for cannabis possession, and yet you have white Wall Street businessmen and bankers that are now making billions and billions on this industry, while those same folks are still incarcerated. I mean, Richard DeLisi was in jail, just recently. We had him on the show, up until last December. So there are still people serving, 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 plus year sentences for touching this product in some type of way. Brittany Griner has been detained now for almost three months in Russia. So the fact is that if folks can make money on this, and if the state can tax it and pay their bills by taxing weed sales, why are we not emptying out the prisons? And why are those same groups that have been disparately affected by the war on drugs not able to get into this industry? And that's the issue that we have in front of us. And what you're saying, Gary, is now the state has realized that, we messed up. We need to create a license so that people can get into this industry. And not only are we going to create it and make folks jump through hoops, but we're also going to increase or triple the application fee that the original 5 paid. And so
now let's remember that 2017 was the year that we went ahead and created the bill that basically stated you had to start giving out licenses. And so we're approaching what the 4-year anniversary of when they were actually supposed to have done what they're doing this week.
Yeah.
So, and just to put things in perspective, I did a Freedom of Information Act request for the OMMU back in 2018 on how many licenses they were actually giving out, and I'm sorry, how many medical cards they were giving out, because the numbers didn't add up. And I asked them for three sample days. I just got a notice this last week saying they're working on my request from 2018, and they need to know over the next 20 days if I still want it, because if not, they're going to stop looking.
Well, Gary, you remember that call we had with the OMMU in Tallahassee Normal a couple
with Director
months
Ferguson.
back? Yeah. I mean, those bead counters in the OMMU couldn't even answer my questions adequately, or when they got a difficult question, they would blame it on the politicians and the legislature. I feel as though the OMMU is one of the most dysfunctional and poorly staffed agencies in Florida, and Governor DeSantis, I think, I don't know if it's been by negligence or has it been by design, but he screwed the pooch when it has come to the Department of Health and rolling out and properly executing Florida's medical marijuana system. Like, everybody wanted to pat him on the back for doing a press conference with John Morgan and Matt Gaetz. Maybe in hindsight he shouldn't, but about pushing forward with smokable flower. But the fact is that he hasn't done jack shit for us since then. So, when it comes to this upcoming election here in 2022 in Florida, you got to take a look and be like, do we want to move forward with a governor who has done jack shit to improve this system? He didn't even chide his party for shouting down the reforms that we've put up in the legislature. I mean, they didn't even take a vote on it, Gary. They shouted it down on the House floor a few weeks back, and then they laughed about it. The infuriatingness that I have. So, and I don't want to direct that towards our guest later. I mean, she's not part of the Florida Republican Party. She's a Republican from South Carolina. But for those of you here in Florida, those of you Florida voters, the Florida Republican Party does not give two flying fucks about patients.
Yeah, they don't, because of the putrid odor that DeSantis was talking about.
Although, I'll be honest with you, I would really like to see a flying fuck. I'm just saying that that would be an experience that I would not forget in my lifetime. But that's besides the point. That's the point. That you don't want to see on Pornhub anyway. But and we're not on Pornhub from what I understand anymore, right? They blocked us for not being filthy enough. Is that what it was?
We never broadcasted a rotation on Pornhub, Gary. What are you talking about?
But on a
I wore a tie today.
You can listen to us on Facebook now.
Yes, we do have it on Facebook. We're on
but
Spotify.
Never on Pornhub.
Never on
Pornhub. We were never on Pornhub.
We were on iTunes.
Gary was back in his younger days.
Now there are conferences in South Florida once every year or so.
They used to call Gary Detroit Dan back in the day.
Yeah, Detroit Dan. Yeah,
it's like if you go to Pornhub and Google or type in Detroit Dan, you get Gary on there.
or
not normal Gary
or White Jew Gary. I think is the other name that they possibly gave me. I prefer the title. I am the official token Jew. That works for me.
You said that at the Tommy Chong thing.
And he loved that.
He was like, "Whoa, this guy."
this guy. No, and then remember, I was venting before Tommy came on the show, and I was like, "These Republican cocksuckers," and then Tommy goes, "Cocksuckers? Whoa, what are we talking about? What did I just jump into?"
Yeah, he just logged on, and the very first word that he heard was Kano putting out that epithet, and coming from him when he said, "Whoa, what's going on now?" All I heard was cocksucker. And coming from Tommy was hilarious.
And I use that word
second only to Chris saying it.
I use that word freely. I almost got kicked out of the Democratic Party for using that epithet and referring to Kim Kardashian and Hillary Clinton in the same sentence. But it is what it is. I mean, Kim is who she is. She's famous for what she's famous for. Get off my back about it. Jesus Christ.
Famous for being famous. She's the Eva Gabor of our days, Zsa Zsa Gabor. So. Famous for being famous.
I don't know. I really like pre-Kardashian Kanye. People would like to say Kanye has mental health issues, but I don't know. I
did hear that Kim Kardashian was arrested for smoking Kush on the beach.
Really?
So,
well, maybe that. I didn't know that.
I know Kanye.
Well, some of these rich folks, they think they can get away with anything. The fact is, we don't have public use in most of our states right now, and we don't have consumption lounges.
Well, Gary, I'm glad
we have to approach that one of these days.
Because we were talking about Britney, and I think part of it is that when you have money, even if you're not rich, you can be a middle class person in America. You have the money to actually go into a dispensary and buy stuff, right? Or you have the money to actually be able to afford your cannabis and not break the bank. You're not someone who's like, let me get an eighth. You're someone who can buy an ounce, and you use cannabis regularly, use it freely. You don't get harassed. You live your life 99% of the time in that free. You get conditioned to thinking it's okay sometimes. You don't have that paranoia, if you will. And I think that's part of it is that, you just had a vape pen in your bag. You didn't go the extra step to store it, in your underwear when you're going through the checkpoint, It's not like the old days where you have to put a nickel bag under your nutsack to get it on the airplane.
Okay.
And then all of a sudden you're in jail and your whole country forgets about you.
Okay.
Or even worse, they say that, like Lisa Leslie mentioned, that they were briefed. The WNBA said, don't talk about Britney because we don't want her to become a political pawn. So your own government is stamping it down and not even addressing it. And that's crazy.
Okay, she doesn't. They don't want her to become a political pawn, even though so far she's been used as a political pawn. I mean, I doubt it's the first time that she tried to bring a CBD vape pen into the country. I doubt that. After 4 years
Well,
working,
that's what I was saying. I'm pretty sure she was comfortable. This is a regular thing. Yeah, there's my vape pen. Probably had it in her check-on bag right there. Like it's nothing special. It's a vape pen, right? And,
right.
and
Oh, we got a new message back here. It says, "Okay, here's what we got. The police department is saying that they will be clear by 12:30. Possibly get with her at 1 p.m. Or does that totally blow you up? So sorry for this. Had no idea this was happening this AM. Let me know."
well, do y'all want to go for a doubleheader episode today? I don't know what your schedules are like. I don't mind doing a doubleheader if that's what you
Well,
want to do.
I've got an errand I've got to run at noon, but what we could do is go out and come back. If you guys are good with it, and if I can sedate my wife enough to agree with that.
Carlos, what do you think? You want to do a doubleheader episode today?
Double-headed episode today. That's fine.
Okay, well, we can come back at 1 with the Congresswoman. Let them know, Gary.
All right, will do. Unfortunately, for some odd reason, I turned on dictation, and everything we just said for the last 5 minutes was just written on my phone.
Oh no! Don't send that.
I'm not sending it. Don't worry, I'm not sending it because
I think we
she
said
might not
cock-
like the fact that we're talking about cocksuckers.
Yeah, we said
I'm
that
just saying.
3 times in the last 5 minutes. Yeah, you don't want to say that.
I'm just saying. All right. So, okay, sounds good.
So
Sounds good. 1 o'clock. Don't smoke any boof.
don't sell me no booth, man.
Don't sell me no boof. Now, quick question, Chris. What are the laws right now in South Carolina?
Well, South Carolina normal. I remember talking with them when we had our pre-COVID national conference, and things were not looking well in South Carolina. But recently, there have been some developments, some back and forth in their legislature. So they're nowhere near where we are in Florida or some of the other states. So they're one of those last bastions of they're starting to get medical with their CBD laws and such, but they got to do better.
All right. Well, that's where we're going to get going because she was on the South Carolina State House of Representatives. Not that she spearheaded bills there. I don't know. We'll find out from her.
So their medical marijuana legalization bill, will officially allow for patients with qualifying conditions to possess and purchase from dispensaries, and smokable products as well as home cultivation is prohibited. So they're basically a repeat of Florida. So and it's it was approved in the Senate. It's now going for their House consideration, and then we'll see what happens with it all. I think Governor McMaster may sign it, may not.
Yeah, we'll wait and see. So the gentleman said that's good. That'll give her time to settle in once the officers leave. Thank you for understanding and sorry about all that. I hope everybody in DC is safe. Hopefully that was just a perceived threat and not an actual one. But you never know when you're on DEFCON Orange, right?
I'm not gonna lie. This lady's badass for DEFCON Orange and still wanting to do the show with us.
Oh yeah, you gotta respect that.
Yeah, I gotta.
Because when it comes down to the prioritization of things, you have to keep the rotation way the heck up there, right?
Apparently.
All right.
I didn't realize our show was so awesome.
You had no idea. See, that's the RSO. If you hadn't eaten at least 4 grams before you walked on today, you would know just how awesome this show is. Because right now it's all a blur.
Where am I right now?
Exactly.
Oh shit! I got to do the. There you go.
All right, so dudes, we're going to take a pause for the cause, and I have no idea which cause that is. But I do think before we leave, we should do one quick commercial in regards to our event coming up in April, and then we'll cut off and come back at 1. How's that sound?
We got 2 events coming up. One major event coming up is actually our membership meeting this week.
That's the wrong graphic. I don't have a graphic for the membership meeting.
Yeah, you see, Carlos also lives backward in time, too.
Well, you can find the details on our website.
Does not
for us,
require a graphic. Don't worry about it.
you know, for our spring membership meeting. Carlos,
I
there's the
can get
link
a
to our
graphic
spring
up.
membership meeting there. So, but yeah, our membership meeting is this Thursday, 7 o'clock over Zoom. And then on April 23rd, as you can see on your screen there, is the Tampa Bay Cannabis Business Expo. Now, you are not going to want to miss this business expo. And if you're looking at in the chat there in the links, you can click the link to RSVP for our membership meeting this Thursday. But the expo next month in April is definitely going to be something that we're excited for. We got cannabis businesses from around the state coming. You know, there are folks that some of these businesses are actually interviewing. So in general, admission is free. But we are putting together several panels that you may want to get access to. These are premium panel events. We're actually going to have Nikki Free keynoting our Women in Cannabis breakfast. We're actually going to have a networking breakfast as well. We got a cannabis business in Florida panel, which is coming up. A healthy living with medical marijuana panel, where you'll hear patient stories, doctor recommendations. You get some recommendations about dosing and getting some more information, especially if you're new to cannabis as a therapy. And then we're going to close out the day with a social justice panel, which will be more politically oriented, and we'll have some major political figures on that panel to talk about the war on drugs and how do we win the war on drugs. You know, and when I say we win, I mean we, the American people, because the war on drugs has been the longest running war in American history, and it's been on the people itself, on us. So how do we, the people, win? You know, people always laugh, oh, you know, when they say this police barracks in, what was it, Michigan, got bought out to become a grow house. And they're like, oh, the war on drugs looks like the drugs won. But it's never been about the drugs. It's been about we, the American people, having the freedom to have control over our bodies. And you know, if you've seen anything about the Florida legislature this past session, controlling people's bodies has been at the forefront of public policy for the Florida GOP. And so it's no wonder why they don't support the freedom to use cannabis and for us to be able to have control over what we need, especially when you have chronic debilitating conditions like chronic anxiety, like PTSD, with chronic pain. You know, among all the other conditions that you know that are out there, whether it's HIV, AIDS, Parkinson's, dementia, that people suffer from, cancer. You know, so the right to utilize this medicine, and it has been a medicine for so long, and to know the history of prohibition, and to know that it has been big money and major players between the pharmaceutical industry and between petrochemicals that have pushed to keep cannabis illegal in the first place. It infuriates me because, you know, we look at, and Gary, you've touched on this before, even taking hemp as an agricultural product out of the supply chain, where cows and pigs aren't fed hemp anymore. And then we look at our food supply and we see the high instances of cancer in eating pork and red meat. And it's like, well, you know, if we know that cannabis has anti-cancer compounds, and we've taken that out of the feed supply, it's no wonder that you can connect the dots and see higher instances of cancer showing up with the animals that we consume.
Yeah, absolutely. They substituted hemp for moldy hay and antibiotics.
Yeah.
Essentially. So think about it that way.
Yeah, now they pump your cows full of antibiotics, and then you wonder why, you know, you can't feed your kids whole milk past age 5.
Yeah.
So,
oh, and by the way, from what I understand, I've been outvoted. The Advocate mud fight during the event has been canceled. We're not going to have that.
Yes, Gary, we're not going to do mud fights when we have disagreements in the cannabis industry. We are going to do gladiatorial style dab offs. Folks will now, if they have disagreements, we'll dab head to head like they would shot to shot, and we will settle disagreements that way from now on.
I think dab offs is a very peaceful way to end anything. I think we should have one between Putin and whoever.
I think we should have dab offs even when we agree.
Yeah, hey, I think Putin and Zelensky should have a dab off. I think I'm putting my money on Zelensky.
I think Zelensky would win that one hands down. He's a comedian. I mean, where does his creativity come from? Sativation. That's what it is. Okay, guys, we're going to log off now, and we'll be back at 1:00 with our guest, our special guest, Congresswoman Nancy Mace. And we apologize for interrupting your Sunday in the morning. Go back to church. We're already there. And we'll see you back, guys, at 1:00.
All right. Okay.